Okay. 8:30, we will start the meeting now in order to take advantage of time. So distinguished participants and colleagues, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all. My name is Jose Valls, and I have the pleasure to be your moderator today for this CFS side event, where we are all invited to imagine a future where new generation and ecosystems thrive, making the national pathways to sustainable food systems the accelerator for SDGs. This is the title we have today for the event, and we are going to try imagining this future together. I look forward to unfolding this topic further, but before that, I would like to remind some housekeeping rules. First is that this event is being carried in 4 languages: English, French, Spanish, and Chinese. So you can look at the bottom and click on the interpretation to choose your preferred language. You are also welcome to introduce yourselves, to ask questions, to share relevant information and links via the chat box that is open for this event, as we are carrying it out as a webinar mode. So please feel free to interact through the chat box. And you are also reminded that this meeting is being recorded. So now let's jump into the session. Today's event is co-organized by FAO, by the World Farmers Organization, and by the International Dairy Federation. And it's organized under the 7-year-long GEF impact program on food systems, land use, and restoration, which we call FOLUR. And you will hear a lot of FOLUR in this event. This program is led by the World Bank, and it's implemented with support by FAO, UNEP, UNIDO, UNDP, and the World Bank in 27 countries around the world. The focus of the impact program is to achieve a world where productive landscape and selected value chains can find synergies with the goals of global environmental benefits, and at the same time the ambitions of the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda and its 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Today, this particular event will bring light on how integrated assessment approaches can better inform decision-making across national and subnational levels to accelerate also the national pathways that countries have been developing in the framework of the UN Food Systems Summit last year. So to unfold these topics, we have invited FAO, and we have with us Ewald Ramsteiner, who is the Deputy Director of the Forestry Division here at FAO, and the World Bank. And we have with us Christopher Brett, who is the FOLUR Program co-lead at the World Bank, and they will deliver some opening remarks and help us setting the scene for the event today. Then we will have 2 keynote speeches, first by FAO to introduce the sustainable production landscape process that can help more informed planning and better decision making, and then by UNEP that will explore how to move beyond environmental assessments in focusing especially on production systems to consumer-driven assessments. So looking from the consumer side and supporting policies on healthy diets and sustainable food systems. We will then have 2 dedicated panels for voices from countries and from stakeholders that will walk us through different contexts and realities on the ground. So enough for me for the moment, and I will give the floor to Ewald and then Chris. Thank you. The floor is yours, Ewald.
Thank you, Jose, and thank you, panelists, speakers, and participants. Colleagues, it's really a pleasure to deliver the opening remarks. For some of you, it might be early in the morning, for some maybe a little late. For us, it's just a nice day to start a discussion on a really important topic. And that's a string of topics that we're looking at, because we have been having a range of events in the last months, like the Global Landscapes Digital Forum, the Committee on Agriculture, the Committee on Forestry, both of FAO. And now we are here in the midst of the Committee on Food Security at FAO. And that is a string of events that are really important for a type of effort that we are trying, like in FOLUR. Jose said that this is an abbreviation that we will hear quite often, the GEF-7 flagship impact program on food systems, land use, and restoration. What that says that we are having a link of these different events is that we have a process. We have a process that links to different topical committees that touch on aspects that all need to come together to make progress on participatory, inclusive, cross-sectoral, multi-level integration and collaboration to have the action and the impacts that we on the ground. We are not discussing this topic anymore in one of those fora. We discuss it in a process along a chain of topical fora to bring these together. This is really, really important. Otherwise, we will not make any progress on these complex issues that we have to tackle. FAO has quite clearly recognized this and also has taken in a way, the message that GEF sent that we need to make concrete progress on the ground. FAO in two of the more recent sessions of the Council requested to showcase and promote existing and complementary practices between agricultural activities, meaning crop and livestock, so fisheries, and the conservation, restoration, and sustainable use of forests. That means to combine an issue that deals with food security and food systems, an issue of environmental degradation that needs restoration, an issue that in a way needs a different way of how we look at land use and how to transform land use in more sustainable ways. That's the core of the GEF-7 FOLUR. The UN Secretary General called for high-level governmental focal points to articulate national pathways for these sustainable food systems during the UN Food Systems Summit held in basically a bit more than a year ago in September 2021. FAO has been tasked to host the Food Systems Coordination Hub jointly with other UN bodies to lead and work with these different initiatives that came out from the UN Food Systems Summit to assess the needs, to monitor progress, and to accelerate the achievement of these hundreds, literally, individual and collective solution propositions and commitments that were put forward in these food systems. So we have, in a way, a very good opportunity with FOLUR to link into the UN Food Systems Summit follow-up process that is a lot around how do we turn around food systems, and to use these different fora that connect to the topic of the GEF-7. So FAO is really proud to be an implementing part of these GEF-7 FOLUR because we find it so central to our mission, and we are also quite happy to have quite a large country portfolio, 12 out of 27 projects on FOLUR. Speaking to you from the FAO Forestry Division because we are really pleased to house the GEF-7 Program Management Unit for the FAO's work on FOLUR and for the integrated program on dryland sustainable landscapes. Also one of those integrated programs that, as the term says, integrates different aspects. And we do this across the many divisions of FAO that need to be involved. So similar to the external processes, we have a similar arrangement here in the house. And also here we find it really important, also very useful to work with GEF-7 program because it is a catalyst to help FAO ourselves to accelerate and achieve the new strategic framework, which is a lot about integration, and along with it, the Forestry Division's own interest and ambition on addressing forest-related matters within those. And what we really also like with this GEF-7 is that it helps countries concretely to make progress and showcase progress and show and pioneer the work in an integrated, multi-level and multi-sectorial way to achieve the impact at scale that we need. For FOLUR IP, within the FAO, we facilitate in-house integration among 7 different technical divisions to jointly work towards a world where producing food creates sustainable environmental benefits, and that does that while creating better, resilient, in the best of cases, flourishing landscapes where nobody is left behind. I would like to thank the FAO Food System and Food Safety Division one of those 7 divisions that is engaged in the FOLUR to co-lead the organization of this event, and also help us show together how impactful it may be to work together and go beyond the business as usual, more silo type approach that I think many of us in a way really also come from. So we are jumping over our shoulder, our shells, and work in a different way. And we really like what we see happening here. So that is to a large extent in the context of the FOLUR. Thanks to you, our partners, the FOLUR countries, also be here and share with us and learn with us and discuss with us on the way forward. I close here. I have the pleasure to hand over the floor to Christopher, the lead of the GEF-7 FOLUR is the World Bank. And so the floor is yours, Christopher. Let me stop by saying I wish you all and us all a successful event, and that the great example that GEF-7 FOLUR is putting forward really echoes well within our respective work environment as a good example of the way forward. But now, it's yours, Christopher. Thank you.
No, well, thank you very much, and real pleasure to be here today. And thank you very much for that very, very good and broad and detailed opening remarks there from Jose and of course from Ewald as well. So I'm really grateful to be here today. Greetings to everybody. As we keep hearing about FOLUR, let's move to this next slide that's there. So what I wanted to really sort of stress now, I think in my sort of remarks, is that FOLUR is really moving now to really being operationalized. So what do we mean by that? You know, we now have these 27 countries that you can see on this map. I just wanted to sort of bring it to light that FOLUR is near you, wherever you are in the world. I'm leading from the World Bank side, which is our agricultural global practice and environment global practice, the global knowledge platform. And here in the global knowledge platform, we've got 4 clear areas of work. We work on capacity strengthening across the networks. We look at policy and value chain engagement with the private sector and the public sector. We also look at knowledge management and communications. And of course, the last big part is the program management. We have 27 countries. We have 8 commodities. We're building a real global network of commodities to countries, countries to regions, regions of production to regions where there's a strong markets as well. The commodities are very diverse, from commodity staples to food staples. You can see them all listed here. We've got cocoa, we've got coffee, we've got corn, we've got livestock, we've got soy, we've got palm, we've got wheat, we've got rice. Very, very significant commodities. And what are we actually going to be doing here? You know, as a global platform, and we work with countries, we want the countries to get learnings across the network. So my job, you know, in the global platform is to really bring people together to build these communities. So we look at palm, which is emerging in Liberia. We look at palm, which is well established in Indonesia. How can we improve Indonesia? How can we take learnings from Indonesia to Liberia so that we get it right the first time? We don't have to fix it later. How do we tackle the big issues around livestock and feed systems being soy and all those issues that are linked on environmental concerns that we bring these products through to market? So what we want to do here is to really get an understanding that we have a very clear role in high-level policy dialogue. We also have a clear role in the local dialogues as well. So what is high-level dialogue? Last week, I represented FOLUR at the OECD meetings that took place in Paris, where there was a lot of conversation on repurposing public policy or public budgets, public support to farming, which can be through subsidies and price support mechanisms. The biggest question is, how effective are those support mechanisms? How can we ensure that those support mechanisms are incentivizing environmental change, improving environment at scale, at landscapes? There's reports from the World Bank of around $660 billion a year in price support and subsidies of the public sector. There's reports coming out from OECD that this now has moved to around about $800 billion. So we can all agree here that there's a range of $660 to $800 billion of public money going into agricultural production, agricultural systems. The question is, are they adding value to society, adding value to environment, or are they still running a business as usual support program, which is fueling deforestation, which is fueling weak environmental practices, and it's not incentivizing the producers to change? And the knowledge we're learning, is it being utilized? So my last words here, because we want to really get into the keynotes, is to say that you can see that there is a huge network. We're looking forward to meeting and getting out and about and having local workshops, regional workshops, and really get these learnings and knowledge across. We want to integrate FOLUR across all of the World Bank operations into our portfolio, which is standing at $25 billion of lending to government from the ag side. And then we got the environmental side as well. And also, as we heard, that FAO wants to really learn and change and develop systems at scale through the 12 projects they're managing. And then we got projects which are being run by UNDP and the other partners here, UNEP, and so on, Conservation International. You can see it on the map. So look forward to the rest of this conversation. I'll hand back now to the moderator. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Christopher and Ewald, for these words, and for reminding us also the call to sustainably transform agri-food systems from the country level and from the landscapes. I think that also the need for integration in that transformation, the need for multi-stakeholder collaboration, and also how the FOLUR program itself and the partners can contribute to this from the landscape level, from different value chains and among countries, but also between and within the organizations and the stakeholders. So also how to ensure the public support the efficiency of the public support to this transformation, together with the private support as well. So thank you very much. Let us now move on to our keynote speakers for today, and we have with us Fridtjof Borstler, who is the Senior Natural Resources Officer in FAO's Forestry Division, and he's also the Global Coordinator of FAO's contribution to the GEF-7 impact programs on food systems, land use and restoration, but also the one on dryland sustainable landscapes. Fridtjof, welcome. And we also have James Lomax, who is the Sustainable Food Systems and Agriculture Program Officer in UN Environment's Division of Technology, Industry of Economics. Thank you for being with us, James. Now I will let you the floor to walk us through the different synergies and flows that have to exist between what, as we were saying before, what happens on the ground from the landscape, but also what happens at the broader level of society and from the consumption systems, and how these complementarities and can help us in ultimately ensure the sustainability of the food systems, which is our ultimate goal here. So Fridtjof, James, you have the floor for the keynote, and you have 7 minutes each. Thank you.
Good, thank you very much, Jose. Let me start. So as we hear, we are embracing complexity at all levels. So it's my pleasure to start with the first keynote speech with a brief introduction of our work under FOLUR, with emphasis on the integrated landscape management processes that all the 27 countries are engaged in. Let me share my screen. Good, so as mentioned in the opening, FAO is not only a FOLUR GEF implementing agency at the country level, but also an executing partner of the FOLUR global platform, as mentioned by Chris, whereby our PMU here, hosted in the FAO Forestry Division, does not only coordinate FAO's engagement under FOLUR, but, and that was mentioned by Ewald, also in the GEF-7 impact program on drylands. So that provides already many cross-pollinating opportunities On evidence good practices, it's all about integration. So we also integrate the two impact programs, getting the knowledge and evidence that Chris referred to from the country up to the global level. Drylands is very relevant. Many FOLUR countries, more than half, are actually located in dryland areas with the associated challenges in view of sustaining food production while safeguarding ecosystem services. So one of our core deliverables under the global platform, it's just one, is the development of the sustainable production landscape approach rather than process for informed decision-making towards resilient landscapes and sustainable agro-food systems. So that I will present here briefly today with a quick note that the SPLT development has just started this year with an anticipated piloting in the FOLUR country starting next year onwards. Yeah, so before getting there, I would like to briefly pick up on the in-house integration aspects highlighted by Ewald, because that's very important. Integration is not only happening at the landscape level, but also within FAO in our house here. By using the GEF impact programs as a core vehicle, so we bring different technical divisions and their flagship tools and approaches together in a very tailored and integrated manner for the benefit of our countries, not only FOLUR, but also the drylands impact countries. And we have established different task forces comprising of the different technical divisions. We have 7 in total, covering land and waters, crops, livestock, of course, forest with the majority of deliverables, as well as food systems and food safety. So we are breaking internal silos. I believe the World Bank is doing the same. So we've got different work streams involved, the environment and the agriculture sector. So it's very good to see that this is happening across the board. So the SPL approach, the sustainable production landscape approach, is one of the results of the approach of the integration in-house. And we also have an additional package which also combines different deliverables, which is focusing on sustainability standards, which is happening under an overarching umbrella of the Codex Planetarius that FAO is exploring to establish jointly with WWF. So Chris mentioned it's very important to share the results, to also get the evidence back from the countries. So we are doing that. We are monitoring what is happening at the country level. Again, there's a lot of cross-pollination. There are different approaches that are very similar. There are common challenges that we are looking into. And that information across the board in terms of evidence good practices will flow into FAO's governing bodies, such as the Committee on Agriculture and the last week finalized Committee on Forestry, where integration under the topic of agriculture and forestry linkages was also top of the agenda. So the momentum is right. Okay, so the sustainable production landscape approach links directly to the first programmatic components that all the 27 country projects follow. That's the beauty of the GEF-7 and GEF-6 integrated programs. It's sort of an alignment and harmonization in terms of the integrated programming and programmatic nature that all the countries will follow. So in the case of the first component, here we address all countries will look into integrated landscape management and informed decision-making, eventually for the development of integrated land use plans. So it sounds easy, but it's actually quite difficult. In this case, we use Paraguay as an example to demonstrate this SPL. The country project covers soy and livestock as key commodities. However, the SPL, the tool can really be applied across all 27 countries, meaning across the different commodities mentioned by Chris and the different land use systems FOLUR and the countries are focusing on. So the decision-making process towards integrated land use planning needs to be evidence-based. This is very important. And for this purpose, the SPL will generate targeted data and information. And this starts with already available and existing information. There's a lot out there for an initial overview of the targeted landscapes and ongoing processes. Of course, this will be very much tailored to the project objective, or later on also the government objectives, with link to the national food transformation pathways. The SPLT will be closely linked with FAO's hand-in-hand initiative and existing hand-in-hand data and the portal. There's a lot of data out there already analyzed. In the case of Paraguay, the hand-in-hand portal, for instance, provide extensive layers on agriculture topologies besides poverty, efficiency, and potential analysis on agricultural production. So this usually provides a very good starting point for the bigger picture. So we have a lot of data and information already available, but of course this is still through a bird's eye view. So we need to get closer to the ground. And this will be done by different additional assessments, again, very targeted, that can take place at different levels, depending on the context. In the case of Paraguay, there are different tools that will be applied. So we've got, for instance, in relation to livestock, the Global Livestock Environment Assessment Bundle, GLIM, which is looking into the geographic distribution of animal population and different emissions intensities based on livestock production systems. And we can also go deeper with the livestock environment assessment and performance, which is called LEAP in short, for the identification of livestock system hotspots and the identification of most suitable farming systems. So both of those assessment tools are already adopted and used in Paraguay. And this is also done with one of our FOLUR co-executing partners, the International Finance Corporation. There are more tools. I don't want to get into details in view of time, but in the DSLRP, in the Drylands Impact Program, for instance, we use a participatory grassland and rangeland assessment methodology, PRAGA, very successfully. So countries are really engaged in that. And this is where the cross-pollination in terms of evidence good practices comes in. And depending on the project objective, again, this data can be used for different scenario analysis. But a very important step, which is missing and often overlooked, is a multi-stakeholder consultation. So there's a lot of information and data out there. The question is, which also includes, by the way, the national transformation pathways, how does this information reach the ground, you know, in a relevant and sort of user-friendly way? So the production landscape approach is exactly doing that. All the information that is gathered will be presented to the land users for informed decision-making. So this is one of the key parts that the DSLIP will get involved. And of course, the end product would be an informed decision and agreement on the integrated land use systems, the zoning, and the plans that will be supported through the FOLUR implementation eventually. Good. In view of time, I'm not going into details of this slide, but I skipped a few steps, but you can see in the case of the livestock commodity how the approach will work by highlighting the different steps and the different access tools that will be provided. Good. Thank you very much. I stop here and hand back over to Jose.
Thank you very much, Fritjof, for this keynote. And I will give the floor now without further ado to James. If you can give us your keynote speech, and you still have the 7 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Let me just initially share my screen. Okay. Thank you so much. Can you see the screen? Can I, if I put it into, if I do that, is that better? Hang on, slideshow. Is that better?
Perfect, thanks.
Okay, thank you. So thank you so much, Jose, and thank you so much, colleagues, for inviting me here. This is an incredible opportunity, I think, to sort of have a look at what's going on in the FOLUR work. I was definitely involved at the start of it a few years ago. It's really great to see how it's evolving. My name is James Lomax. I'm the Food Systems and Agriculture Lead in the Ecosystems division in Nairobi. And crucially, I was a part of the Food Systems Summit Secretariat for 18 months of an extremely busy time of my life. So I thought we would start off, because we want to talk about landscapes. I think you can't talk about landscapes without talking about food systems. And I just wanted to give a little bit of an idea about how we at UNEP feel and we think about food systems. And I think it's really important to understand that as Chris said, landscapes themselves are very rarely a food system in themselves. So we have to understand that while landscapes could occasionally be in a situation where you have the consumption patterns, you have the markets, you have the production in one landscape, it's extremely rare for that actually to happen, especially as food systems become even more entrenched and globalized as we move forward. So if you can see the middle bit, it says food systems activities. I think we're all up to date about what that means, but it's very important that we understand the top of the graphic and the second and the bottom of the graphic. So the top one is really what's driving our behaviors from growing through to disposing. And the bottom one is really showing what are the outcomes of that and the impacts that they could have. So it really shows that we have to look beyond value chains, we have to look beyond landscapes. So we could well be in a situation that a landscape in itself might be sustainable, but it might be within an unsustainable food system at the country level or at the regional level. And I think this is where the complexity comes in, and where we might be able to bring this forward and hopefully into the FOLUR work. So I also wanted to, if you like, give us a snapshot, because some of the work that we do in UNEP is really interesting, because like Chris was talking about his work in the World Bank, we have a similar kind of role. We're not very present at the country level. Of the 27 countries working at the country level at FOLUR, UNEP has but 3. We are involved in but 3. So it just shows, if you like, the kind of way that we are working. We're not really set up for country level work as such. So we have to have this normative role. And one of the things we've been doing the last 6 months is very much getting involved in how the food systems is changing, and it's been in such a terrible state regarding the issue that's happening in Ukraine, so the crisis in Ukraine. But this is not just about Ukraine, this is also about the incredible stress that the food system is under up to the point when the crisis started.
Sorry, James, sorry to interrupt. We have a sound issue. I don't know if maybe it's a matter of the microphone or...
No, this is maybe an issue with the internet.
Okay.
Is that better?
Okay, let's
just see. I'm afraid the internet here is not fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
That's one.
Okay, let's try. Because I guess the interpreters have trouble also.
Okay.
Like listening clearly. Okay.
Okay. Let's carry on. So this is I think a really interesting point whereby this demonstrates the kind of wicked problem and pressures that our food systems are under. And it's going to be very much at the landscape, well, first of all, at the food systems level, at the country level, and secondly at the landscape level, that these issues are really going to be felt. I think one of the key things that we have seen is the fact that, yes, it's all very well to talk about landscapes, but in fact, the globality of our food system shows that we have an incredible dependence on wheat and maize from Ukraine and Russia, and that's putting incredible extra pressure. And I think probably the source, of course, of the reason why the 660 billion has gone up to 800 billion in the last few months or this year as such. One of the things that I think is important about FOLUR is that it does work on commodities. However, this may be to a certain extent exacerbating the fact that we are dependent on much fewer commodities than we used to be, which is also creating all sorts of issues when it comes to soil degradation and when it comes to greenhouse gas emissions. So what is that shown? That's shown that commodity prices have increased, but fortunately they have come down. And one of the reasons they have come down is because of the grain coming out of Odessa. But it's shown that there's an incredible vulnerability in many countries because of the focus that we have and the dependence that we have on just a few commodities. Now, what I also wanted to talk about, and this is linked very much to this issue of fuel and energy, what will not come down very quickly is this issue of energy prices, and that has the knock-on effect of fertilizer shortages. This has the knock-on effect of issues like fertilizer prices, and also I think when it comes to issues around the dependence that we have in a lot of our food systems on issues like electricity, issues around gas, issues around the price of diesel. This is going to mean that farmers are going to be under pressure, so production systems are going to be under pressure even more so as we go forward. Now, we all know that food systems are an incredible driver of our triple planetary crisis. And when we say triple planetary crisis, this is something that UNEP has identified as a key focus for us going forward in the next 5 to 6 years. The triple planetary crisis are climate change, it is biodiversity loss, and the third one is pollution. And very much when it comes to food systems, it's very much kind of it's both impacted by and it's a key driver of that. And I'm sure none of you need to know more, or you need to be educated about these things. Now, so despite all of these things, we do have, of course, issues, some fantastic way forward around projects like FOLUR, etc. And it would be great to hear from the countries about how they are managing these incredible pressures from a landscape perspective. But also, we have this very, very positive piece of work, which is the Secretary General Food Systems Summit. Now, we know that there are 140 plus countries that have committed to national food systems pathways, and there is also a reasonable amount of consensus when it came to issues around livestock. Now, livestock was a very difficult issue within the summit, but we did manage to get to a point where there was understanding within the livestock sector that that livestock sector are integral to food security and livelihood. They are also very, very important when it comes to sustainable food systems and sustainable production systems. But they also we have to bring consumption, we have to bring patterns back in line with the Earth's resource capacity. Now, one of the things that we have to do, and this is where I think we have to really bring that linkage between the national pathways and when it comes to the landscape level, is we have to understand the role that landscapes have within achieving sustainable food systems. As I say, this is not something where we go from sort of, if you like, a systems approach. We ignore the systems approach just because it's at the landscape level things are fine. That's not the case because of the drivers, because of the consumption, the patterns, the demand for different foods, the fact that there are more pressures given the crisis that we're under now to perhaps change patterns, to double down on business as usual, to actually get to a point where we are focusing much more on the commodities and ensuring there is seed, whether there is wheat production, fertilizer available, as opposed to really getting into the nub of what we as UNEP would like to see, which is, okay, how do we create resilience back into our food systems, which are going to bring consumption, food waste reduction into the pathways into a way of understanding the way that food systems can operate at the national level, but also really working hard to bring back these three elements of resilience when it comes to production: rotation, zero tillage, and soil management. And this is where I think livestock has a really important role to play in bringing, if you like, those natural systems back to our landscapes. And I just want to have one last point, is that focusing on just one issue, like, for example, climate mitigation, will not deliver the transformation needed. Therefore, at the landscape level and at the national pathway level, there needs to have a clear understanding, A, of the drivers, and then B, of very much how can we create a net positive influence of our food systems on our landscapes. Thank you very much, Jose, and I do hope that you heard me.
Thank you very much, James. And yes, we heard you, but yeah, we apologize for the difficulties in the sound, maybe due to connection. And I understand even for interpretation, it was a big challenge. So we apologize for that. This is things that we are used to, unfortunately, in some of the events online because of connection issues. So thank you very much to both James and Fritjof. And I think it was very clear and important, highlighted by you, the need for integration also of the tools and approaches that exist and that are needed to provide a more complete picture from the landscape level, but also to go beyond the landscape boundaries and looking even at implications like we saw, like the crises, like shocks, like that involve many aspects related to the resilience of the food system. So I think that was very, very important also to set the concrete background, and also the importance of linking production and consumption and looking at changing patterns in production systems, but also changing patterns in consumption systems. And for that, we need the right information, and we have there are many tools, there are many approaches, and how to integrate them in order to have the best information for decisions on both production and consumption. So I would actually have a lot of follow-up questions to both of you, but unfortunately given time, we will have to jump to the next segment now. So thank you very much again to our keynote speakers, and we will now move to the segment that is dedicated to country voices, and allow me for that to welcome representatives from 3 countries that are where FOLUR impact program is being implemented. The first one is China, and we have with us Mr. Wang Xuanhui, who is chief expert in the Rural Energy and Environmental Agency of the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs in China. We hope to have our colleague from Côte d'Ivoire. We are trying to have some to connect. We are also having, unfortunately, some connection issues. And it's Mr. Kouassi Teha Pascal Angui, who is the Director General of the Production and Food Security at the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development in Côte d'Ivoire. And then we have from Paraguay, Graciela Miret Martinez, who is the Director of Strategic Planning of the Ministry of Environment and Sustainable Development. And we will have this intervention through video recording because of the time difference with Paraguay. So, colleagues, mindful that this event is in the framework of the CFS, which is the Committee on World Food Security, we would like to have your views first on how is your country addressing policy measures to enhance these objectives of the CFS, to enhance food security, to enhance nutrition, economic growth, but also looking at environmental policies. And then we would like to hear how the UN Food System Summit that took place last year is also helping to shape plans for food system transformation in your countries. So you have 4 minutes each for this intervention, and hopefully we can follow up with the next question. And you have the floor, Mr. Wang Xuanhui.
尊敬的侯队先生，各位女士、各位先生，大家好。目前全球面临着前所未有的粮食安全挑战，实现联合国2030年可持续发展零饥饿目标任重道远。增强粮食系统抵御未来冲击的韧性，提高安全性、可持续性和包容性，共同实现可持续发展，是推动全球粮食系统转型的重要议题。中国政府高度重视粮食和农业生产，始终把保障粮食安全和可持续发展作为治国理政的头等大事。在推动粮食可持续转型方面，着力提升农业综合生产能力，深化农业供给侧结构性改革，推动农业产业链、供应链的现代化，构建资源节约、环境友好、绿色导向的农业绿色发展新方向，促进农业高质高效、乡村宜居宜业、农民富裕富足。在2017年啊，中国出台了第一部的农业绿色发展的指导文件，关于创新体制机制推进农业绿色发展的意见，把农业绿色发展摆在中国的国家生态文明建设的突出位置，推动建立以绿色生态为导向的制度体系。2021年的8月，农业农村部等有关部委联合发布了“十四五”全国农业绿色发展规划，提出了加强耕地保护与质量建设、治理、修复耕地的生态，保护、修复农田景观生态系统，构建农业绿色供应链、健全绿色农业体制机制等重点任务。在2021年的11月，中国国务院发布了“十四五”推进农业农村现代化规划，把保障粮食等重要农产品有效供给作为推进农业农村现代化的首要任务，落实藏粮于地、藏粮于技，健全辅之以利、辅之以义的保障机制。在今年的2月，中共中央、国务院发布了关于做好2022年全面推进乡村振兴重点工作的意见，提出要保障国家的粮食安全，稳住农业的基本盘，做好三农工作。2021年的联合国粮食系统峰会重申了气候与粮食系统之间不可分割的联系，强调要推进支持粮食系统转型和应对气候变化行动的政策决策。基于此中国就提出了这个建立在大资源、大环境的基础上的一个树立大农业、大食物的观念，就是强调在这个确保粮食供给的同时，保障肉类、蔬菜、水果、水产品等各类食物的有效供给，向耕地、向草原、向森林、向海洋要食物，向植物、动物、微生物要热量、要蛋白，全方位、多途径的开发食物资源。这也就是说，要在保护生态环境的前提下，我们食物系统从耕地资源向整个国土资源拓展，推动食物供给的多元化的转型，构建这个与资源环境承载力相匹配、更高效、更包容、更韧性和更可持续的低碳、循环的多元的农业粮食体系，进一步提升粮食生产能力和保障能力，共同维护中国和全球的粮食安全。谢谢。
Thank you very much, Mr. Wang. We are passing now to Paraguay, and I would ask colleagues if we can show the video recording from Paraguay.
Uno. Muy buenos días. Muchas gracias por invitarnos a participar de esta sesión número 50 del Comité de Seguridad Alimentaria Mundial. Imaginar un futuro en que las nuevas generaciones y los ecosistemas prosperen. El establecimiento de las vías nacionales hacia sistemas alimentarios sostenibles como acelerador de los ODS era un tema en el que no queríamos estar ausentes. Muchas gracias por invitarnos a participar de este espacio. Desde Paraguay, estamos convencidos que los productores tienen gran responsabilidad y valor, no solo en la producción de alimentos, sino también en la conservación del ambiente, dado que gran parte de los bosques y los puntos de agua se encuentran en propiedades productivas privadas, lo que convierte en un actor fundamental para la conservación. El Estado paraguayo reconoce el derecho a la alimentación adecuada como parte del derecho a la vida, asentado constitucionalmente. A pesar de ser un país productor de alimentos, la dependencia alimentaria de algunos grupos, como las frutas y las verduras, está en aumento, al igual que recursos tan básicos como la disponibilidad de las semillas. La desigualdad en el acceso a los recursos como la tierra, las semillas, el agua, la infraestructura y la tecnología agrícola son problemas que las políticas públicas del Paraguay buscan atender y resolver a través de las diversas carteras del Estado. Desde el Ministerio del Ambiente y Desarrollo Sostenible tenemos una visión integral de las aristas que engloban y afectan a la seguridad alimentaria, incluyendo temas de adaptación al cambio climático. Hemos apoyado a muchas comunidades vulnerables en mejorar sus niveles de seguridad hídrica para la alimentación y la producción. Hemos brindado capacitaciones y asistencia técnica en mejora de pasturas para la alimentación de ganado, que permitió a los participantes maximizar su productividad, evitando tener que expandir las superficies productivas a expensa de los bosques, proporcionando la conservación de estos. En vista a todos los trabajos realizados por el MADES, podemos afirmar que apuntamos a lograr nuestros objetivos por medio de diferentes proyectos institucionales para lograr el fomento de la sostenibilidad de los sistemas de producción y que coincidimos en el enfoque presentado por la FAO, basado en los principios que equilibran las dimensiones sociales, económicas y medioambientales, como el aumentar la productividad, el empleo y el valor añadido en los sistemas de alimentación y proteger e impulsar los recursos naturales. Con respecto a tu segunda pregunta, ¿cómo la cumbre de los sistemas alimentarios de la ONU 2021 nos ayudó a formar esos planes de transformación del sistema alimentario? La cumbre de sistemas alimentarios llevado en el 2021 creo que constituyó el espacio propicio para que la región de América Latina pueda presentar su posición ante las demás regiones y se puedan realizar diferentes intercambios de experiencias y visiones respecto a las expectativas para la transformación del sistema alimentario. Nuestro enfoque de transformación incluye el participar en debates, en un enfoque multidimensional y multisectorial de los sistemas agroalimentarios que existen en nuestro país. Buscamos viabilizar las buenas prácticas de producción que los sistemas productivos de Paraguay están llevando a cabo. En ese sentido, la cumbre resultó en varios análisis de buenas prácticas de producción y su contribución al desarrollo sostenible, especialmente aquellas con alto impacto y alcance, como son la siembra directa, la rotación de cultivos, los cultivos de cobertura, mejorar pasturas. Todos estos son implementados en Paraguay y en el Mercosur. Paraguay, sin dudas, es un productor de alimentos para el mundo. Es un país rico en recursos naturales, pero es altamente vulnerable a los efectos del cambio climático. Y por consiguiente, lo es su población y es la producción de alimentos. Pues por eso es menester nuestro esforzarnos para la adaptación, como lo indica la Ley 5875 Nacional de Cambio Climático, a fin de que podamos generar resiliencia para los sistemas de producción y mantener los niveles de producción necesarios para la seguridad alimentaria de la población. Gracias.
Thank you very much, Ms. Miret. And I am being told that unfortunately we have some connection issues to have our representative from Côte d'Ivoire, Mr. Kouassi, with us. So in the interest of time, I will continue with the discussion, and in case our colleague can join, we will do that later. So thank you very much to both countries, and it's really interesting to hear the efforts and the progress that your countries are doing in moving towards more sustainable food systems. I would have a follow-up question for you on this, if you could, like very briefly also, because we are running a bit out of time, but if you could give us in 2-3 minutes some indications or your views on how will the FOLUR impact program support your country in achieving these objectives that you have been describing on food security, on nutrition, etc., but also in a way that food systems are transformed to deliver not only benefits for ecosystems, but also on these other outcomes, and thinking ahead and thinking not just of the current generation, but even of the next 3 generations. So, Mr. Wang, you have the floor. Thank you.
好，谢谢主持人。基于全球粮食生产系统啊和土地利用，继续得到改善这个共识啊，全球环境基金与粮农和世行等国际组织共同发起了粮食系统，土地利用与恢复的影响计划。这个计划呢，旨在通过恢复退化的景观系统和加强可持续的土地管理，来改善粮食和土地利用系统，提高农业适应和减缓气候变化的能力，构建更具可持续性和气候韧性的农业生态系统。2012年以来啊，中国政府开始推动农业绿色转型，农业生产方式的绿色转型，由过去单纯重视的这个产量，向农业可持续发展转型，以解决这个农业系统生态功能脆弱、农田生物多样性下降、气候变化的应对能力减弱等一系列问题，开展了针对畜禽粪便、畜禽粪污资源化、果菜茶有机肥替代化肥、秸秆综合利用、农膜回收，以长江为重点的水生生物保护，以及相关的面源污染治理等多个方面的农业绿色发展行动，取得了这个显著成效。2021年，由农业农村部和联合国粮农组织共同实施了面向可持续发展的中国农业生态系统创新转型项目，作为咱们这个全球 FOLUR 项目的子项目之一。这个项目呢，以这个小麦、玉米和水稻这个3个大宗作物生产系统为目标，在中国的这个云贵高原山地生态系统，在中国南方的红壤的水稻生态系统，在长江的这个下游的这个长三角的生态系统，在山东华北平原的这个玉米和小麦轮作的生态系统，以及在黑龙江的黑土地生态系统，建立了5个具有代表性的这个项目的示范区。这个示范呢，主要是以基于自然的解决方案，系统的开展生态景观的恢复和优化，加强这个在整个农田景观生态系统和这个乡村景观生态系统以及这个县域、全域景观生态系统的大的这个系统之下的一个高标准的一个土地可持续综合管理的一个规划，探索自然向好的这个可持续的和气候智慧型农业的这种生产方式，提高粮食生产系统的韧性和可持续，实现人与自然、农业生产系统与资源环境保护的协调发展，为实现联合国的2030年可持续发展目标，解决全球粮食安全与应对气候变化，提供中国特色的创新模式的这个借鉴与支撑。这个我们将在借鉴和吸收其他国家的先进理念和经验基础之上，在粮农的指导下，加强多部门的协作，与全球项目的 这个合作伙伴、国际执行机构、这个相关的利益私营部门和地方政府等相关的利益方，这个密切合作、创新合作机制，分享项目成果，并以此为契机，促进中国的农业景观生态系统和农产品的价值链向环境和生态可持续发展方向的深度转型，将可持续的生态景观理念融入到我们景观规划层面的工作，制定好我们综合土地利用的管理规划，进一步提高我们粮食系统的生产方面的韧性，然后为全球的农业绿色可持续发展，也为中国的粮食安全、为国际的粮食转型，提供我们的中国的方案。谢谢。
Thank you very much, Mr. Wang. We will hear now Paraguay with the role of FOLUR. Thank you.
Bien. Muchas gracias por tu pregunta. En cuanto al proyecto FOLUR, es un programa a nivel global y este programa es una respuesta global a la creciente demanda mundial de alimentos, a fin de compatibilizar la producción de los mismos con la gestión sostenible de los bosques, la biodiversidad y los hábitats naturales. Este proyecto es liderado por nuestra institución, el Ministerio del Ambiente y Desarrollo Sostenible, en coordinación con los actores y las partes involucradas, y permitirá dar continuidad a los trabajos ya iniciados con la comunidad vulnerable, como los mencionados en el primer segmento. Uno de los principales fines del proyecto Paraguay FOLUR es buscar el equilibrio entre lo económico, lo ambiental y lo social, generando el valor a los procesos productivos sostenibles a través de diversos incentivos para toda la cadena de valor. El proyecto busca mejorar los sistemas de gestión integrada de los paisajes, trabajar en la producción sostenible y cadenas de valor responsable, y restaurar y conectar ecosistemas. Paraguay con este proyecto abordará el fortalecimiento de las capacidades y la implementación de un sistema de información integrado para la planificación y el monitoreo del uso de la tierra, que permitirá una mayor accesibilidad, transparencia y agilidad en todos los procedimientos relacionados con la gestión integral del paisaje. Asimismo, se presentará asistencia técnica para apoyar a los gobiernos locales en la elaboración de sus instrumentos de planificación territorial. Podemos decir entonces que este importante proyecto contribuirá así a armonizar a los procesos de planificación territorial desde una perspectiva de desarrollo sostenible, respondiendo a múltiples objetivos, tanto ambientales como sociales y económicos, y apoyando así a Paraguay a acercarse un poco más a ese deseado y anhelado desarrollo sostenible. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much for this, and it's really a pity that we have to run against time in this event. We are getting a lot of very interesting and inspiring insights, and especially also from the countries. But in the interest of time, I will have to move now to our next segment that is dedicated to the voices of stakeholders. Because when we focus on food systems, as we know, multi-stakeholder collaboration becomes a key aspect, and this was seen also at country level with the national pathways. And for this, it's very important to recognize also that each stakeholder has a role to play and needs to be at the discussion table as well. So for this segment, we have the pleasure to have with us and listening different perspectives from farmers. We have with us Elizabeth Smidala from the World Farmers Organization. Thank you very much for being with us. We have Pier Cristiano Brazzale from the International Dairy Federation that brings also a perspective from the private sector. And we have Jack Bobo from the Nature Conservancy that brings also a perspective from the civil society and as being an environmental NGO. So colleagues, I know it's a difficult question actually to respond in 3-4 minutes, but if you could please maybe give us one example of what can your organization do to secure a future where new generations and ecosystem thrive, as we were saying in the title of this event. So please Elizabeth, you have the floor for 3 minutes in very concrete terms. What can your organization, World Farmers Organization, can do? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. You're putting me in a difficult situation. It's very difficult for a World Farmers Organization to do just one thing. Yeah, but to start with, I bring you greetings to all of you from the World Farmers Organization as the co-organizers of this side event. And we really extend our sincere appreciation to all of you for joining the discussion wherever you're connected from. So my name is Elizabeth Nsimadara. I'm a young smallholder farmer from Uganda and the World Farmers Organization board member representing the Africa constituency. But I'm also the president of the Eastern Africa Farmers Federation. First and foremost, in regard to the question, Chair, that you've posed before me, you will all agree with me, colleagues, that everyone has a role to play if we are to secure a new generation future where ecosystems thrive. If you remember very well, in 2021, on the occasion of the United Nations Food Systems Summit, food producer organizations across the world joined forces to reiterate that farmers are drivers of solutions towards food systems. The declaration calls for urgent and concrete actions to drive systematic change that put farmers at the center of people and economic actors, to eliminate unfairness, the injustice, and to rebalance power in the food systems value chain. And lastly, to enhance the farmers' resilience. The declaration also reiterated the need for strong, empowered farmers' organizations if we are to offer sustainable services to our membership. And this should be at all levels to ensure a solid, independent farmers' voice. And further to this, it also points out the need for an international primary producers platform to enable urgency and steer UN policy and program on food systems. The only path towards fairer and more nutritious food systems is by supporting diversity of production systems, diversity of production methods, putting farmers and producers, including women and youth, at the center. We need to strengthen farmers' organizations as a crucial step in the way forward, as well as engaging them in the national pathways, as we heard from the representatives of our national governments, and the coalitions for the United Nations food system implementation at all levels, starting from the grassroots to regional, continental, and global level. On this, the World Farmers Organization is part of the Global Sustainable Livestock Coalition. We co-launched this with other stakeholders, and Family Farming Coalition, which we support as a member of the International Steering Committee of the UN Decade of Family Farming. And on ensuring sustainability, World Farmers Organization has a strong inclination to the young farmers. We believe that the present and the future of agriculture belongs to the youth. So we need to make sure they are engaged in policy-making processes and get a seat around the table. Young farmers need to be supported and empowered to be able to engage in farming and recognize it as a profitable venture. The foundation of economy and well-being of the majority of countries around the world is rooted in ecosystems, in land, in soils. And according to the UNCCD, 85% of the world's 1.2 billion young people live in regions that are directly dependent on land and natural resources. I know, Chair, you're indicating that my time is up, but as World Farmers Organization, we have a policy, a young farmers policy that was adopted at our last year's General Assembly actually this year's General Assembly in June 2022, that creates an enabling environment for youth through farmers-driven policies, designing tailor-made education programs for youth, as well as facilitating youth access to resources, finance, inputs and all other factors of production. And of course, strengthening youth organization and participation in land policy making processes, facilitating youth access to finance, and enhancing the generation renewal in agriculture is very key and critical. And finally, we also look to support the engagement of young farmers and their organizations in policy processes and the development of partnerships among youth associations and networks to increase youth institutional capacity and advocacy power. I hope, given an opportunity, I'll be able to add more insights on our variation and actions towards youth empowerment. I thank you, and over to you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth, and sorry for the time pressure, but this is a constraint we have. And thank you very much for the passion also, and for the complete picture. We go now to Pier Cristiano. Please, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you. I prepared a written speech, so I will remain in 4 minutes. So the global dairy sector is fully committed to reducing its impact on greenhouse gas emissions, water and land use, and at the same time, optimizing the positive contribution to soil and ecosystem services. The dairy sector has a key role to play in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals of the UN 2030 Agenda. As an innovative sector with a deep commitment to environmental good practice and nutritional benefit, we take pride in the fact that our nutritious products can play such an important part in meeting global sustainability and nutritional responsibilities and ambitions. This commitment is expressed in the Dairy Declaration of Rotterdam, signed in 2016 between IDF and FAO. The declaration recognizes the essential role of the dairy products for balanced, nutritious, and healthy diets. Its goal integrates the 3 pillars of sustainability: social, economic, and environmental, and call for commitment from all stakeholders. In the dairy declaration, the dairy sector agreed to take an integrated approach to promote the sustainability of dairy systems, jointly taking into consideration social, economic, health, and environmental dimensions, give particular attention to the needs of family farmers, smallholders, and pastoralists, build, implement, and disseminate tools and guidelines to facilitate the identification and adoption of sustainable practice in the dairy sector, build the capacity in support of sustainable practice and provide enabling condition, measure and report on sustainability outcomes, and finally, strengthen multi-stakeholder dialogue for consensus building, reviewing progress, and continuous improvement. Events like this one constitute an unparalleled opportunity to communicate the many efforts that the dairy sector is already engaged in to mitigate environmental impact and enhance climate action. IDF has recently published the 2 new important guidelines on the LCA sphere. The first one is the new update of the IDF Global Carbon Footprint Standard for the dairy sector. Its goal is to create an LCA global standard that can assist the dairy industry in its efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions across all its value chain. 50 experts from 17 countries who reviewed the latest science and best practice. The second publication is a bulletin on carbon sequestration LCA guidelines for calculating carbon sequestration in cattle production systems. This guideline provides the cattle sector with an appropriate science-based approach to quantify the sequestration as part of the greenhouse gas footprint calculation. For 5 years in a row, IDF has published the IDF Dairy Sustainability Outlook, whose main purpose is to provide insights into ongoing projects within the dairy sector and new research on the sustainable development for the dairy sector with ongoing projects and up-to-date research. A climate action special edition will also be published in October. And finally, the Pathways to Dairy Net Zero initiative was launched on September 22, 2021. Over 100 leading organizations and 11 of the 20 largest dairy companies already support the initiative, including IDF. Dairy helps create a sustainable food system, ensuring high-quality nutrition for all. But dairy, like all sectors, knows that there is more work to do across every dairy community. Through every continent, we are taking action. Pathways to Dairy Net Zero will be the highlight of a side event that IDF Global Dairy Platform and Uruguay will be organizing in COP27 to convene the ongoing efforts that the global dairy sector is already putting into practice all around the world to foster climate action.
Thank you very much, Pier Cristiano, for these inputs. And now, Jack, if you could give us your input to 3 minutes as possible, because we are already almost over time. Thank you very much, and sorry about that.
No problem. Well, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. It's an important topic. For those not familiar with the Nature Conservancy, TNC is one of the world's oldest and largest conservation organization operating in 76 countries around the world. TNC scientists work on the ground with farmers, ranchers, indigenous communities, and other partners to secure a future where new generations and ecosystems can thrive, which is why I'm particularly excited to participate in this session. The need for food may be a universal constant, but the way we produce it is different around the world. Understanding the diversity that underpins our global food system is a first step towards changing it, and transformative change is what is required. There's growing understanding of the need for this transformation, as the UN Food System Summit demonstrated. Away from a system that pits humans against nature to the detriment of both, and toward one that supports healthy people and healthy planet. For the global transformation starts with local change. Thinking about systems change at the level of the landscape can help build bridges between global ambition and local implementation. At the Nature Conservancy, we refer to landscapes with distinct food production geographies and with specific combinations of biophysical characteristics and management attributes as foodscapes. And the approaches used to achieve our goals for climate, water, biodiversity, and food production are as nature-based solutions. Let me give you just one example, given the limited time. The Tana River in Kenya supplies 95% of the water for Nairobi's 4 million residents and for another 5 million people living in the watershed. It also feeds one of the country's most important agricultural areas. Since the 1970s, forests on hillsides and areas of wetlands have been converted to agriculture, removing natural areas for storing runoff water and soil from the land. Now, as rain falls from over farms, soils are washed down into the river, which reduces the productivity of farmland and sends sediments into the river. This increased sedimentation can choke water treatment and distribution facilities, causing complete service disruptions for days or weeks at a time in Nairobi. In 2015, the Nature Conservancy launched the Upper Tana Nairobi Water Fund to help secure the source of water for Nairobi to protect the Tana River, increase downstream water quality and quantity, and provide positive benefits for tens of thousands of farmers in the watershed. Water funds are founded on the principle that it is cheaper to prevent water problems at the source than it is to address them downstream. Public and private donors and major water consumers downstream contribute to the fund to support upstream and water and soil conservation measures, resulting in improved water quality and supply without the need for expensive filtration systems. Together with our water fund partners, 3.6 million trees have been planted, and we provided more than 44,000 farmers with the training, resources, and equipment they need to keep the river healthy, conserve water, and reap the benefits of higher crop yields and more stable farms. Now, this is just one example of how a landscape-based approach can help ecosystems to thrive. Food system transformation ultimately comes down to a series of decisions made by millions of producers all over the world in communities of amazing diversity. A just and lasting transformation can only happen if all these communities can envision themselves as part of the process and receive the support they need to participate, with the resulting benefits distributed equally or equitably. Events like this move us toward that future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jack, and thank you for this very concrete example and very representative, and that brings us also to the reality of the ground. Thank you very much, colleagues. I see that we are a bit over time, but I also wanted to acknowledge that our colleague, Mr. Kouassi Angui from Côte d'Ivoire, is connected now. Apologies again for the technical issues, but we are getting now to the closing of the event. And in reality, we had so many important issues and so different perspectives that we would have stayed, at least myself, I would have stayed here for another 2 hours or more to discuss and interact. Unfortunately, this is the time we had. But I think this is also very important to know that it's just a kickstart. It's not, we are starting now, and the real work and the real connections and coordination among all these partners is starting now. We will continue behind the scenes. We will continue implementing also activities directly on the ground. So just this is the good news, that it's really kicking off the process with this event. Now, I have the pleasure to hand over to Divine Njie, who is the Deputy Director of the Food Systems and Food Safety Division, and who will give us some closing remarks. Before that, I want to thank again all the participants, all the speakers, for also bringing and sharing your expertise and your experiences in the different in your different sectors and countries. And thank you all the audience also for being with us. It was a pleasure moderating the session. And now over to you, Divine, for the closing remarks. Thank you again very much.
Thank you very much, Jose. Distinguished country representatives within and outside FOLUR, esteemed CFS delegates, dear colleagues, dear participants. Today, we gathered for an event that was actually very different from others because it gave us an opportunity to project ourselves into the future, to look into the needs of future generations and their right to enjoy healthy and happy lives. Today, our keynote speakers showed us how the Sustainable Food Systems National Pathways can help us not only to imagine future-oriented scenarios of flourishing, productive landscapes and to visualize them through geospatial information tools, but also we learned how to build sustainable food systems through national pathways, how important multi-stakeholder engagement is. And we also heard how assessment tools generating knowledge based on scientific data are the catalyzer for any evidence-based change in policymaking and investment plans on food systems. Today, we also learned how to build sustainable food systems through the national pathways, how important, and that's a repeat, so I'll just continue. Now, while hearing from the panelists, I sat here and I wondered, what are the success factors for national pathways and FOLUR? The discussions we had this morning showed that to achieve their goals, national pathways need to keep the focus on concurrently meeting the needs of the following three major actors. The first set of actors are the food producers. Only with profitable agriculture can landscapes flourish and at the same time cope with the challenge of providing food and nutrition security for all. Secondly, consumers. In order to meet market demand, we need to know consumers first. Nutrition, taste, and cultural traditions are often major drivers for food dietary choices, and public awareness can drive major food systems transformation. Now, the third category is the future generations, that is the future producers and consumers. We actually do not know much about them. Unlike the first and second categories, these future generations do not participate in any choice yet. What we can do is to put climate change and restoration, rehabilitation, and conservation of ecosystems, and the fight against all forms of pollution at the center of our activities in order to secure a nice and healthy life for these future generations. Distinguished participants, the FOLUR Impact Program is a model about how UN agencies can join forces with other stakeholders to work together in a synergistic manner. Today, we had FAO and UNEP talking about sustainable food systems, covering a range of issues, producer-focused approaches and policies on the one hand, and consumer needs and healthy diets on the other. Agriculture on the one hand, and the environment on the other. Ensuring coherence across policies on sustainable production and sustainable consumption is of paramount importance to achieve better production, better nutrition, better environment, and better lives through sustainable food systems and healthy diets. As we did today, facilitating dialogue and cooperation between different stakeholders and sectors, between countries, the countries that are encouraged to ensure cooperation and coherent policymaking across their ministries of agriculture and ministries of the environment. Where appropriate, ministries of energy should also be invited to play an active role. Today, it has been made very, very clear that assessment tools developed through consensus building are a stepping stone towards effective, evidence-based, impact-oriented policies. The national policies, the national pathways, but also international coalitions formed in the framework of the 2021 UN Food Systems Summit are vehicles of change in food systems while leaving no one behind. The CFS 50 is what gathers us here today. I look forward to seeing major results on food security and nutrition also through FOLUR. I also invite speakers to continue their discussion and start reporting results of their activities through an array of performance indicators to assess all facets of food systems transformation, including deforestation rates, greenhouse gas emissions, water footprint, but also other dimensions as we have heard today. While implementing FOLUR, we need also to consider how to address resilience in a changed environment and how to best secure revenues for farmers and food producers. On behalf of FAO, I would like to thank all participants once again for such a rich discussion. Also the FOLUR team that made this event possible, and also the IT and translation support for today's event. Have a nice continuation of the day and stay tuned for more information on FOLUR. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Divine, for these closing remarks. At the same time, I'm noticing that our colleague, the connection from Côte d'Ivoire seems to be stabilized, and I wouldn't like to miss the opportunity as we have Mr. Anguille Kouassi with us to give you, and with apologies for the connection issues, to give you some 2 minutes, 3 minutes to close also from your perspective from Côte d'Ivoire. And this will be the closing of the event. So we change a little bit the format, but we are very happy to have you with us and being able to give us a very quick greeting and closing from Côte d'Ivoire. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay, I send all my greeting to all participants. I apologize for not being here right from the beginning. And as you said, it was for technical problems. Message was sent to an email, which was almost obsolete. So I heard some part, the last part of the meeting, and I assume that food security is something very important for all countries. And we can see, as you said, we hope that this will really write the beginning of all of our exchanges in order to achieve the goal that we all set in order to achieve food security. Food security is something very important for Côte d'Ivoire. We have a strategic document which we put out, which called PENIA, which set up, and the goal of this project is to increase production, improve transformation, and also reduce the impact of food crisis on food security. So I won't develop further because the time is up. But again, it's my pleasure to take part on this exchange, and I hope that next time the technical conditions will be set so that I can start with you right from the beginning and give you more insight of what we're doing here in Côte d'Ivoire. Thank you very much to everyone. Thank you to Mr. José Vars for this important and of this important meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Angui Kwasi, and it was really our pleasure to finally, in the end, have you with us today as well. So this would be the end of the event. I wish to thank again everyone, the speakers, all the team that was behind the organization of the event, the interpreters who also are doing a very hard work behind the scenes. And as we said, it's just the kickstart. It's just the beginning. So we will have further opportunities, hopefully very soon, to continue this discussion behind the scenes, but also through this kind of events. Thank you very much, and I wish you all a very good day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.